Seth Rollins is in the hospital and the Shield is reuniting in the most heartbreaking circumstances possible. Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, two men who've had complicated, often adversarial relationships with Seth over the years, just put aside everything to visit their fallen brother after a devastating injury that might end his career. And if you think this is just a feel-good moment of brotherhood, you're missing the deeper implications of what this reunion means. This isn't just three friends reuniting, this is two superstars from different companies crossing promotional lines because their bond transcends business. It's WWE potentially exploiting a serious injury for storyline purposes, and it's the wrestling world being forced to confront the reality that our favorite performers are human beings whose bodies break down and whose careers can end in an instant. The emotional weight of seeing Dean and Roman at Seth's hospital bedside should hit you like a sledgehammer, because this represents everything beautiful and everything terrible about professional wrestling wrapped into one devastating moment. Let me paint the full picture of what led to this devastating hospital visit, because the context makes this so much more impactful. Seth Rollins, the visionary, the architect, one of WWE's most dependable workhorses, suffered what's being reported as a serious injury during a match or segment. Whether it's a knee, a neck, a back, or some combination of injuries from years of punishment finally catching up with him, the result is the same. Seth is in a hospital, not just taking time off or resting at home, but in actual medical care because his condition is serious enough to require professional monitoring. The injury probably happened in brutal fashion, maybe a botched spot, maybe accumulated damage finally manifesting, maybe Seth working through pain until his body literally couldn't anymore. Wrestling fans saw it happen live or through clips, and there was that stomach-dropping moment where you knew something was wrong. Seth didn't get up immediately, medical staff rushed to the ring, the crowd went silent with that terrible hush that only happens when reality intrudes on entertainment. Seth was stretchered out, the visual that every wrestler dreads and every fan hates to see. Maybe he was conscious and trying to reassure people, maybe he was visibly in pain, maybe the situation was serious enough that WWE cut away from cameras because they didn't want audiences seeing the full extent of the problem. Either way, Seth ended up in the hospital, not the trainer's room, not resting backstage, but an actual medical facility because trained professionals determined his condition required it. And that's when Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns dropped everything to be there. Dean, who's supposed to be in AEW, who left WWE specifically to escape the corporate machine, who has his own career and commitments, somehow made it to Seth's bedside. Roman, who's dealing with his own bloodline drama, his own betrayals, his own wars, put all of that aside because Seth needed him. The image of these three men together, not in wrestling gear, not cutting promos, not playing characters, but just as humans dealing with the reality of their dangerous profession, is powerful beyond words. Dean probably looking rough around the edges as always, but with genuine concern on his face. Roman probably trying to be strong and supportive but clearly affected by seeing his brother hurt. And Seth probably trying to crack jokes to ease tension despite being in a hospital bed, because that's who Seth is. Now let's talk about why this reunion is so significant given their complicated history. The Shield was one of wrestling's most important factions. Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins revolutionized WWE television in the 2010s. They were brothers in arms, unstoppable together, seemingly inseparable. But then Seth betrayed them. The infamous chair shots to Roman and Dean's backs that broke up the Shield. Seth joining the Authority. Years of the three men being on opposite sides, sometimes enemies, sometimes reluctant allies, but never quite recapturing that initial brotherhood. Their relationship has been complicated by storylines, by real-life career paths diverging, by Dean leaving WWE entirely. So for Dean and Roman to show up at Seth's hospital bedside, for them to put aside years of complicated history and hurt feelings, proves something fundamental: the Shield bond is real. It's not just a storyline. It's not just corporate creation. These three men genuinely care about each other as human beings beyond their wrestling personas. And that's what makes this so emotional for longtime fans. We watched these three young guys break into WWE together. We watched them dominate as a unit. We watched them break apart and hurt each other. We watched them occasionally reunite for special moments. And now we're watching them come together again because one of them is hurt, and suddenly all the storyline grievances and corporate boundaries don't matter compared to making sure their brother is okay. Let's discuss what this hospital visit reveals about the reality behind wrestling's curtain. Wrestling is fake in the sense that outcomes are predetermined and storylines are scripted. But the physicality is real. The injuries are real. The pain is real. Seth Rollins being in a hospital is a stark reminder that these performers sacrifice their bodies for our entertainment. And the fact that Dean Ambrose crossed company lines to be there shows that wrestlers understand this reality better than anyone. Dean isn't supposed to be anywhere near WWE right now. He's contracted to AEW, he left WWE with grievances about creative direction, he's built a whole new career outside WWE's system. But when Seth, his brother, ended up in a hospital, company politics became irrelevant. Dean got on a plane, or drove, or however he got there, and showed up because that's what brothers do. Roman's presence is equally significant but for different reasons. Roman is WWE's top guy, carrying massive responsibilities, dealing with his own storylines. Roman taking time away from all of that to visit Seth shows that even at the highest levels of wrestling success, human relationships matter more than business. Roman could have sent a text or called Seth later, but he physically showed up because that's what the situation required. But here's where this gets complicated and potentially infuriating: is WWE exploiting Seth's real injury for storyline purposes? Will this hospital visit be used as content, filmed for television, turned into an angle? Or is this genuinely private moment between friends that someone leaked or reported on? If WWE is filming this or planning to use it for storyline purposes, that's disgusting. Seth is in the hospital dealing with a potentially career-ending injury, and WWE wants to turn it into content. That crosses a line between entertainment and exploitation. That treats Seth's genuine pain as just another tool for generating drama. But if this is genuinely private, if Dean and Roman visited Seth as friends without cameras, without WWE involvement, and it only became public through reports, then that's actually beautiful. That shows that despite everything, despite company boundaries and storyline animosity, these three men maintain genuine bonds that transcend the business. The problem is we don't know which one it is. And that ambiguity is what makes this situation both heartwarming and potentially disturbing. Wrestling has such a long history of exploiting real tragedies for storyline purposes that fans are right to be suspicious even when presented with something that seems genuinely emotional. Now let's talk about what this means for Seth Rollins' future. The fact that he's in the hospital rather than just taking time off suggests this isn't a minor injury. This could be career-threatening. Seth is only in his late 30s but has been wrestling at the highest level for over a decade. His body has taken punishment: multiple knee surgeries, back issues, working through pain because WWE's schedule demands it. What if this injury is the one that Seth can't come back from? What if we just witnessed Seth Rollins' last match without knowing it? What if the Shield reunion at the hospital is the last time these three will be together as active wrestlers? Those questions are terrifying for wrestling fans who love Seth and appreciate everything he's contributed to the industry. And if Seth can't come back, how does that change WWE's landscape? Seth has been a consistent main event player for years. He's reliable, talented, willing to work any style, capable of having great matches with anyone. Losing Seth even temporarily but especially permanently leaves a hole in WWE's roster that's extremely difficult to fill. For Dean Ambrose, seeing Seth in that hospital bed probably brings back memories of his own injuries and struggles. Dean has talked about how WWE's schedule and expectations took a toll on his body. Seeing Seth in the same situation probably reinforces Dean's decision to leave WWE and work a schedule that's more sustainable for his health. For Roman Reigns, this is especially complicated because Roman has his own health history with leukemia. Roman understands better than most what it means to have your body betray you, to face medical uncertainty, to question whether you can continue doing what you love. Roman seeing Seth in a hospital bed probably triggers a lot of those memories and feelings. Let's discuss what should happen moving forward if WWE has any decency. First, Seth should be given all the time he needs to recover properly. No rushing back for storylines, no pressure to return before he's medically cleared, no expectation that he work through pain to meet corporate demands. Second, if Dean and Roman's visit was genuine friendship, WWE should respect that privacy and not try to turn it into content. Let these men have their private moment without cameras and exploitation. Show some humanity for once instead of treating everything as potential storyline material. Third, WWE should use this as a wake-up call about their scheduling and physical demands on performers. How many wrestlers need to end up injured or burned out before WWE admits that 200+ dates per year is unsustainable for human bodies? How many hospital visits before they make meaningful changes to protect their talent? But here's what will probably happen: Seth will be given some time off, but there will be pressure, subtle or overt, to return as soon as possible. The Dean and Roman hospital visit will either be completely ignored by WWE or will be referenced in storylines to generate emotion. And WWE's grueling schedule will continue unchanged because short-term profit matters more than long-term performer health. Let me address the emotional impact this has on fans because that's real too. Wrestling fans form genuine attachments to performers. We watch these people week after week, year after year. We celebrate their triumphs and feel their defeats. When someone like Seth Rollins ends up in the hospital, fans don't just think, "Oh, that's too bad." We feel scared and sad because we care about these people as human beings. The Shield means something special to fans who watched their entire journey. Seeing Dean and Roman reunite at Seth's hospital bedside hits different than a typical reunion because it's rooted in genuine concern rather than storyline convenience. Fans are feeling a complex mix of emotions: happiness that the Shield bond is real, sadness that it took Seth being hurt to bring them together, fear about Seth's future, and anger at the system that puts performers in these dangerous situations. Here's what I think is the truth of this situation: Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns genuinely visited Seth Rollins in the hospital because they're real friends beyond their wrestling personas. The Shield bond is legitimate. But WWE's machinery is probably already figuring out how to incorporate this into storylines because that's what WWE does. They commodify everything, even genuine human moments. And that duality, genuine friendship existing alongside corporate exploitation, is what makes wrestling so complicated. The emotions are real. The concern is real. The bond between these three men is real. But it exists within a system that treats everything as content, including pain and injury and fear. I need everyone watching to understand something: wrestling is entertainment, but wrestlers are human beings. They break, they hurt, they suffer. When we cheer for high-risk moves and intense matches, we're implicitly accepting that performers are risking their health for our entertainment. Seth Rollins being in a hospital is a reminder of that reality. And Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns visiting Seth is a reminder that behind the characters and storylines are real people with real relationships who care about each other beyond what cameras capture. That's worth celebrating even while we critique the system that puts them in dangerous situations. I want to hear from everyone in the comments. Do you think WWE will respect the privacy of this hospital visit or exploit it for storylines? Should Dean Ambrose's presence raise questions about potential cross-promotional work? What does Seth's injury mean for WWE's future? And most importantly, how should wrestling change to better protect performers from these kinds of serious injuries? Share this video with everyone who's concerned about Seth Rollins and moved by the Shield reunion. This is bigger than one injury or one moment. This is about how wrestling treats its performers and whether genuine human connection can exist within a corporate entertainment machine. Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns visited Seth Rollins in the hospital after a serious injury, and that simple act speaks volumes about their relationship, about the reality of wrestling's physical toll, and about the complicated intersection of genuine emotion and corporate storytelling. Seth deserves time to heal properly without pressure. Dean and Roman deserve recognition for being there when their brother needed them. And fans deserve honesty from WWE about injuries, recovery, and the human cost of the entertainment we consume. This Shield reunion isn't happening in a ring for our entertainment, it's happening in a hospital because one of them got hurt. That sobering reality should make us appreciate these performers more and demand that companies treat them better. Comment your well wishes for Seth's recovery. Share your Shield memories. Subscribe for updates on Seth's condition and the fallout from this emotional reunion. Because wrestling might be predetermined, but the injuries are real, the emotions are real, and the brotherhood between Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins is undeniably, beautifully real. Get well soon, Seth. And thank you to Dean and Roman for showing us what brotherhood looks like when it truly matters.